Okay, so let's get on with the lesson, guys. Okay, that's my sort of advertising out of the way. We're going to move on with the lesson now. And we've got somebody else watching here. It says Tanim is watching. Okay, nice to see you. Okay, guys, so we're going to look at task 1 bar charts today, okay? Now, task 1, as you know, has a lot of different types of questions which you could get. Could be a line graph, could be a table, but we're going to look at bar charts today, and then there'll be other lessons on other types of question. So I'm just going to walk you through how to approach and how to answer this kind of question. So what do you have to do? First of all, when you're in the exam, you get given a graph like this, or a chart like this. What's the first step? First step is to understand the chart. What is the information that is contained in there? Okay, and you'll find that here in the title, you'll find that on the side, you'll find that on the bottom, and you'll find it in the key. So we can see that there are two colors. There's a blue and an orange. The blue stands for France, the orange is for the UK. So we're talking about two countries, as it says here, and it shows us how much money. Expenditure means how much money is spent in these countries. Hello Zat Aziz, nice to see you, thanks for joining us. I hope you guys are okay. This is the ISP IELTS task 1 bar chart writing lesson here on Facebook. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. It's great to have you with me. I hope you can get the feed properly. I get some interruptions, but we'll carry on anyway. So, we're looking at expenditure in two countries. Expenditure simply means how much money is spent. Okay? So, we've got France and the UK. How much money do people in France spend, and how much money do people in the UK spend on consumer goods? Consumer goods are things that we can buy in the shop. Could be electronics, TVs, could be clothes, could be things that we just buy online, and it's in 2010, so it's in the past. That's important that we know that it's in the past, because that means that our grammar, our verbs that we use will all be in the past tense. And we also need to know that the currency is pounds sterling. Along the side, you've got 50 to 500,000 pounds sterling. This is not dollars. This is not euros. This is not yen. This is pounds. Okay? So please, we need to stick to this. Don't change it to dollars. Don't change it to something else during the essay when you're writing. Stick to that. Now, that's the first thing we need to do. What's the second thing? The second thing is we need to see, okay, what do we notice about this graph? What kinds of points could we talk about on here? Now, the thing that strikes me, the thing that I notice straight away is perfume. What do you notice about perfume, guys? What can you see? Can you tell me about perfume? What do you notice compared to the other things? You can drop a comment in the chat there. What do you see when it comes to perfume? See if anybody responds. Got a bit of a delay, of course, so I'm waiting to see if anyone can give me an answer. Okay, I'll go ahead and give you my observation. Obviously, perfume is the lowest, really, isn't it? Okay, so we can see perfume down here. Compared to cars, for example, that's much higher, and that's the lowest. Perfume is the least spent on. Thank you, Felix. That's correct. That says UK least amount for perfume. Yes, that's right. Whereas France, that's not the case. We can see France, even though perfume is low in France, cameras are even lower. What does that tell you about French people? They like to smell nice, but they don't like to take photos. But don't put that in your answer. That's not important information. What's important is the numbers. The only thing that is important is the numbers. That is what you need to talk about. Okay, don't give your opinion. It doesn't matter why this is low and why this is high. It doesn't matter. You just have to comment exactly on what you see. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining me again. This is the ISP IELTS live writing lesson. I'm good to have you with me. Let's crack on. Okay, so we're gonna just bear with me a second while I set this up. We're going to start writing our answer now, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Hopefully you're ready. Okay, so let's start writing. Now, I hope you can see that the screen's a little bit small. Let me make it a bit bigger, maybe. Can you see that way? I need space to write, so. Okay. Okay, bear with me. All of my controls are in Korean on my Korean PowerPoint program. Okay, so let's start with our introduction. Okay, how do you make an introduction for a task 1 writing? Guys, how do you do it? What you need to do is you need to look up here. You need to look at the title. Okay? This will be the foundation for your introduction. And it will always be the foundation for your introduction. Use this to write your introduction, but you don't just copy it. You have to paraphrase. What is paraphrasing? Paraphrasing is one of the key skills in the IELTS test. And we've got some people tuning in. We've got Serwa. Hello, Serwa. Nice to meet you. And we've got Judith here. Okay, good to see you guys. Now, we start with our introduction here based on the title. But we have to paraphrase. Paraphrase means changing some words. We write this in the same meaning, but with different words. Okay. So I'm going to put the bar graph provided. Instead of below, I'm going to put provided. Shows the expenditure of. Can we change this phrase, have the same meaning, but with different words? What do you think? Can we do that? Shows, or what can we say instead of shows? Indicates. Let's use that one instead. I think it's better anyway. It's more formal. How much money, or how much, maybe we can even get rid of money. How much is spent? Instead of expenditure of, we've got how much is spent on consumer goods. We're going to keep consumer goods the same. If we want to put more detail, we can say on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consumer goods, and then we can list them. Cars. Maybe we'll do that. Sorry, I've got a new keyboard which I'm not familiar with yet, so it'll take me a while to type quickly. But for this class, we don't need to type too quickly. I want you guys to see everything I'm doing. And, okay, so the bar graph provided indicates how much is spent on 5 consumer goods: cars, computers, books. Why is that capital? Let's get rid of that. Perfume and cameras. And let's change is to was, because as I mentioned before, it's 2010, so it's finished. How much was spent on 5 consumer goods: cars, computers, books, perfumes, and cameras in 2 countries, or let's just put the names of the countries to keep it brief. France and the UK in 2010. Okay. So I've basically written the title. I've rewritten the title in a different way, but I've kept the meaning the same. Now, there's many ways that you could change it. You know, you could put this information about 2010. You could put that earlier on. You could put it here. How much was spent in 2010, for example, and get rid of it here. That would be maybe even better because we're not repeating in 2010 here. And what I've done, what I like to do personally, is my suggestion to you, is to add in the actual things, okay, to list the things under the on the graph. Okay, so if you're talking about cars, then put cars. If you talk about computers, then add that in. For me, it makes it clearer. And also, if you're struggling, obviously, for your word count, remember you need to make 150 words. If you're struggling to get that number, then you're, you're adding more words for that. So Judith's got a good introduction here. I think that bar chart illustrates the amount spent in two nations on consumer goods, cars, computer, books, perfumes, and cameras in 2002. Yeah, great. Okay, that's a great example. And it should be in, she's saying in two nations. That's a good example. So you get the idea. Okay, that's a great one. So that's very simple. In some ways it's simple. And it's a skill you have to practice, guys. It's not, the concept is easy, I think. Paraphrasing the question to make an introduction. But the skill takes practice. Okay? So you have to do it many times to get good at it, like anything else in life. Okay, but that's the concept. Take this and write it in a different way. Okay? So let's move on. What's this next step in the writing process? Who can give me a hint? Who can give me an answer? What's the next step in our process? We've got our introduction. Okay, so the next step, guys, is the overview. All right. What you need to do is you need to give an overview of the information, of the data. Okay. So you need to give a brief sort of summary of what you see, but you don't mention anything specific. You only talk in general terms. Okay. So give a general overview of this data. What would you mention? And for me, what I would mention is the things I mentioned at the beginning, probably of the lesson. Overall, something like overall cars and computers were popular in both countries, while perfume and cameras were less popular. So an overall statement, something like that. So overall, cars and computers were almost equally. So my spelling's terrible. Popular in both countries, while perfume and cameras were less popular in general. Something like that, right? You could probably focus on different things. It doesn't really matter too much. But what I take a brief look at this, and I see that, you know, computers and cars are quite sort of similar, and then books are slightly less popular. But then you look down here, and perfume and cameras are sort of way less popular. So my general statement is that these are very popular, but these are less popular, sort of, just about, right? Even though cameras are quite popular in the UK, I'm going to just put that as my general statement, as an overall summary of what I see. Remember, we're not talking specifically. We can go into detail now about the different things. Would that be a fair overview? What do you think, guys? Do you think that's fair? Would you add anything or change anything to that? We could probably say cars, computers, and books were popular, whereas perfume and cameras were less popular. We could say, you know, there were not many differences in the popularity of the items, apart from cameras, which had a large difference or a large popularity difference. Maybe we could say something like that. It doesn't matter too much as long as you give a sort of general snapshot picture of the data. Now is the time to do what? What's the next step? Next step is to start to write our body paragraph, or body paragraphs, perhaps. I'm going to write that on a different page because I need some more space. Let's pop this back on here so we can see it as we write. Hopefully you can still see that, guys. I know it's probably a bit small. If you're watching on your phones, if you're watching on a like a tablet, it might be a little small for you, but I think maybe what I'll do in the future is I might share the material before the lesson. It might be a good idea to share it in the group on my Facebook, and then you can sort of download this material, and then you can look at it as you do the lesson. Would that be a good idea? Let me know if that's a good idea or not, and then yeah, we could do it that way. Okay, guys, so we're on the live lesson here with the IELTS Task 1 bar charts. My name's Nick. Nice to have you with me on Sunday. It's 5:24 here in South Korea at the moment. Where are you guys? We've got Nisha. Hello, Nisha. Nisha Shah Gandhi. All right, nice to have you with us. Thanks for joining. We are just moving on to the body paragraph now. We've got our introduction, we've got our general overview, and we're moving on to our main body. Okay, so what do we have to bear in mind in the main body paragraphs? The main body paragraphs have to have a lot of data. Okay, we have to talk about these numbers. We have to say comparisons between France and the UK, but to do that we have to use the numbers. It's very crucial in task 1 that you actually include a lot of data, a lot of numbers from the graph that you're analyzing. Okay, so where are we going to start? What's going to be our first thing that we're going to mention? I would probably go, if it was me, I would probably think about what is the key features. What are the key features of this? Key features are cars and computers. Computers are almost the same, aren't they? Cars, I think, are probably that have the highest expenditure. I might mention that the books, the gap here in books, so France spends considerably less on books than the UK. I would definitely say that perfume is the lowest, and that's definitely something to mention. And then also probably say something about the gap between countries in camera expenditure. Okay, so let's start with, we can see that in the UK, the highest expenditure is on cars at, let's change it to was, at around, how much? 450,000 pounds, whereas this was, oops, slightly lower in France, with just under £400,000 being spent on cars. Computers. Let's move on to talk about computers. I think my strategy for this answer, and you can see if you agree with me or not, my strategy is going to be just to talk about each. I think probably talk about each of them one by one. You can do that. I think in your answer you can talk about each item one by one. You could talk. It depends how interesting the data is. I don't have too many huge sort of discrepancies or differences to talk about here. So I think my strategy is just to talk about them one by one, right? Computers were also, what can we say? Were also spent on highly in both countries, with around £350,000 being spent in both France and the UK. Okay. Now we can maybe move on and say that the ones with the differences. Okay. Because cars and computers are fairly similar. All right. But I think if we move on to these three, we can see that there's bigger differences. Or at least this one's much lower. This is a big difference, and this is a big difference. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with books and cameras next. I'm going to leave perfume to last, simply because it's the lowest in both countries, or the lowest. You can see, when you look at the chart, you can see that it's the smallest. So let's tackle books and cameras. Following this, books and cameras were more popular in the UK than in France, with about 450,000 being spent on books in the UK, and 400,000 being spent on cameras. In France, this expenditure was considerably lower. With only 400,000, and cameras is really low, maybe 170,000 being spent on each respective item. Okay. I don't know why it's capitalizing the start of every line. It's very annoying. I'm sure there's a setting where I can switch that off. If you guys know how to switch that off, do let me know. Maybe it's just my lack of computer skills that's the problem. Alright guys, so Judith's got some good ideas. I hope you guys are still watching. We are almost done with our body paragraph actually already. So we've got our intro, we've got our overall statement, we've got a body paragraph. We're gonna have to talk about perfume. One thing that we're missing is perfume. Okay, so let's talk about perfume. All right, guys. So thanks for joining me one more time. This is the ISP IELTS Live Facebook bar chart lesson. I'm just walking you through how to approach one of these and then how to write it. So let's carry on. We're going to finish off and with perfume. Let's talk about perfume. What should we say? In both France and the UK, spelling is not very good. France and the UK. Expenditure on perfume was the lowest of all 5 items. British people spent around, how much did we spend on perfume? £150,000 on perfume in 2010, while the French, who smell much better than us, more at around, how much do they spend? Around £200,000. Okay, cool. Great. Okay, so that is basically all of the information that we need to include in our answer. Okay. Now, what I'm going to try and do, I don't have a word count tool, so I'm going to go on Google Docs and I'm going to add it on here. I'm going to open a new document and we're going to paste our writing. Let's see what word count we've got. So what do we think, guys? Do we think we managed to get enough words? I think we might be slightly under. Let's have a look. Oh no, we're miles over. 192. 192 words have been written. I thought we'd be under. I think it's the big font that I've been using. It looks much bigger and it looks like less words, but there we go. Okay, guys, so that is how I would approach this question. What did we do? Let's recap. First thing we did, we looked at the graph, didn't we? And we looked around the graph. We looked at the title. We understood the title. Probably should have highlighted some keywords. So expenditure, 2 countries, consumer goods, 2010. Pounds sterling is also a key point we need to highlight. We need to identify what the items are. We need to talk about the 2 countries and think about those. We need to see what these numbers mean. Is it percent? Is it pounds? Is it dollars? Is it time? It's pounds. Let's absorb this information before we start writing. Okay. So we need to analyze that first. Then the next step will be, okay, what strikes you? What catches your eye about this? Okay, the cars are pretty high, but, computers and books are also quite high. But then we start to notice, okay, actually there's a fairly big difference here. There's a big difference here, and there's, this is pretty low. So these are the things that stand out, which we'll comment on. And then you start and you write your introduction, which is a paraphrase of the title. Be sure to keep the exact meaning, but change some words to paraphrase, okay? And then we write our overview, okay? Generally, what do we see? Without commenting on any numbers, without putting any numbers, then we move on and we break down the graph. I chose it basically to do it, cars, computers, books, perfume, cameras, but there are other ways to approach it. You probably talk about these 2 first because they're similar. I mean, there's not much difference. You move on, maybe talk about the ones which have a big gap, which is kind of what we did, and then we looked at the lowest one finally. There. Okay. Now, also what I try to do is include a lot of data, a lot of numbers. 400,000, 350, 400, 170, 150, 450. Make sure you put a lot of numbers in your answer. Okay. If it's time or percent or money, include a lot of it. You've got to have, sometimes I see answers which don't have any data, any numbers. That's terrible. You have to put a lot in there, okay, to get a good score. It's very important. You also need to vary your language, okay? So in France, the French, okay? We've got two ways of saying the same thing. Here we're talking about the French people, and here we're talking about the country in France. So we've got variety. We need some variety. We've got expenditure. We talk about how popular they are. We've got how much pounds are spent. So we've got different ways of saying the quantity of money which is used on these items. We have to vary our language. Okay, not too much. Okay, not too much. It's not a competition to see who can use the most impressive language. Keep your language simple and effective and direct. Okay, don't try to show off. Okay, your main goal is to achieve the task. The task is to analyze the information. The goal is not to show off your language skills in this section. All right, you do have to vary your language. You do have to use good grammar and good vocabulary. But you're not writing a story, a poem, or anything like that with long fancy words. You don't need to do that. You need to achieve the task first and foremost. You need to compare. That's very important. Lower, lowest, spent on highly. So we're comparing the two countries. Slightly more, slightly less. We're comparing in this task, comparison task. So those are the things to bear in mind, guys. Okay. We've got Monowar Hussain. Hello. Raul Rudra. Shakil Rashid. Thank you. He says, outstanding, sir. Thanks. How many paragraphs, Felix says? Well, that's a good question. And it's sort of open to debate slightly. Some teachers will tell you that you need, 4. It depends how you count a paragraph. I mean, if this is a paragraph to you, then that's 1, 2, and then there are 3 here. I like to do 3. Sometimes people will do 4. Some teachers will say, split this into 2. So it's up to you. I would say 3 minimum and 4 maximum, really. Okay. If you can see a logical way to divide the body paragraph into 2, then do so. All right. There may be cases where it makes sense to have a separate point or a separate analysis in a second paragraph. But I would say 3 parts for me. Okay. Okay, guys, good. Well, any more questions? I'll stick around for another minute or 2 and take any questions that you've got on the chat. If you want to ask something, just in case you're not sure who I am, my name's Nick Simpson. I'm an English teacher. I've got a lot of experience. I've got 13 years of experience. I've got a master's degree from the University of Birmingham in the UK. I have a CELTA and a Delta qualification. I've worked for the British Council in Korea, South Korea, and Malaysia. I used to teach in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. I now teach in South Korea at a university here. I teach IELTS and other subjects, English, general English, and academic English. So I'm doing these Facebook Live lessons because I think Facebook is a good way for people to watch from around the world, and it doesn't cost you anything. I'm planning to do some lessons in the future on, which I might charge for, some courses, maybe some writing courses, but they won't be very much, and you can come and join me on those when I've set them up. let me just remind you about my. Let's have a look. So Felix says, "Can we get the soft copy of this work?" Yeah, I mean, what I'll do, I'll add this to my Facebook group. So if you come to the ISP IELTS Facebook group, there'll be a place for me to put the information in there, and I'll put this essay, put it in a PDF form. I'll hopefully be able to put it in there for you, or maybe even a picture that you can access later on. You can also, I think, watch this video again. Okay, the video will be, I think, available on the Facebook. Okay, for I don't know how long. I think they just keep it on there. So Felix says wants to learn more. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you coming. Zat Aziz, thanks very much. Felix, Shakil, thanks, and who else? Judith, if you're still there, thanks for coming. Nana as well. Serwa, nice to meet you guys, and hope I haven't missed anybody. But it's been nice to see you again. I'm going to sign off now. If you don't have any more questions, I'll do another one of these. I will do another one of these Facebook Lives next Sunday, guys. Next Sunday. I go live at 5 p.m. Korean time. South Korea time is 5 p.m. Okay, 5 p.m. So you need to find out what time that is in your country. Okay, that's the easiest time for me. I'm quite busy, so I am only available at that time on Sunday. So please drop by and see me next Sunday. We'll probably do a different task 1 question type, or maybe task 2 writing. I will let you know during the week. Or if you have any requests, you can let me know what you would like me to do. Okay? That's the beauty of this. It's two-way conversation, right? You can let me know, and then I can respond. I can tell you what, I can help you with that, right? Let me just quickly remind you, my YouTube, please jump over to the ISP YouTube channel and subscribe and like. We're a little bit low on subscribers at the moment, boo-hoo. So if you could help out with that, I would appreciate it. Jump over there and get involved. Watch some videos. Cool.